Okay, on Friday at greatstockpicks.com we had some pretty nice movers. I'm showing you VVUS. Remember that gap up yesterday and it sold off 10 today. It went crazy. The only reason I'm showing you this, let me zoom in a little bit. When it looked like this morning, now remember I've said this before, in the early going I am looking at high volume stocks to try to build a morning list because we get some pretty good trades off those usually. So I'm not looking to trade in the first 10 or 15 minutes. I'm building that list. But when VVUS looked like this and then started to come back up, I did say over the microphone for those people in our chat room that like to trade early, and I'm not claiming that I called this. I'm not saying hey everybody, but I did say over the microphone, hey, if VVUS gets through the high of the day, it could have a nice move. And man, look at that, it just went crazy. And normally I wouldn't even say this because it's not that relevant, but we had some members make a killing in it, so some of them took it. So being in the chat room was beneficial, even though I didn't say, hey, I'm taking this long, and I definitely didn't take it. I was in the middle of building that list. I'm not a big fan of trading in the first 15 minutes, but anyone that did take it on my mention there got this over 1918, and it went all the way to 2210 or something like that. Pretty good. Along that same lines, at Lionsgate Films, LGF, a little bit too thin for my tastes. Because I run a chat room with sometimes almost 300 people in there, I've just made it a policy where I won't call something that's really thin as a general rule. Now, this is 3 million shares today, but if you go back here, a lot of days, I like them to average at least 1 million a day, you know, going back on the chart quite a way. So that doesn't mean you can't trade these as individual traders. That's why I don't generally call or trade these, but I did say I like this one. Usually I take the thinner stocks to interrupt myself in small fashion and build swing trades out of them, build a position over time rather than, you know, go in big for a day trade. That's the way I handle the thin ones in our chat room. That's where I get my swing trade ideas from. This one's not that thin, but anyway, I mentioned this. Hey, Lionsgate over the first break of the previous 5-minute candle's high, which would have been over this candle right here, 1343, and pretty quickly over 1380. So a nice way to start the day if anyone took that. Again, that was just a mention, and it did work and actually closed strong. So that list that we build of early volume stocks, and you can see the big relative volume in this one for how it usually trades. That list I build in the morning oftentimes puts out some pretty nice gainers. Matter of fact, ESV yesterday showed up, and look at that, a nice 2-day run, and WLL was one that I put out early, and that's been on a tear ever since too. So it definitely, I got to find a little bit better way of harnessing and finding entries on them. I don't always, sometimes I do, but it's a pretty good list to start the day. SD made the list this morning. SD, nice gap up, and I always have the same chart populate as a daily chart with all my lines on it, and I saw SD gapping above the 200-day moving average on big volume this morning. I knew it was going to have big volume by the end of the day too, but see that volume there? So SD catches our attention this morning, and it chopped around, and then it didn't really give me a clean entry using 5-minute candles. So I did what I do sometimes, and I switched to 15s to what you call clean it up. Okay, now you've got stair steps on 15s. I called it long over this one. I said 853. Worst case stop below this candle, 841. Now this doesn't seem like much of a move, but it ends up making it all the way to 880 something. Okay, so almost 30-cent move. But the reason that is relevant is the stop was tight, and SD 30 million shares today. It wasn't something that you couldn't have had as many shares as you want. So anyway, that one, a lot of people made money in that one as well. Akamai was something I mentioned when it looked like this. We had it on bounce watch today because the daily, I'll take today's candle out of it, the daily was broke down out of this base 4 days in a row, and so threw it on bounce watch, and then it gaps up and kind of puts in this flag pattern here. So again, I smoothed it out by switching to 15s and said you could use 15s on Akamai, which would be the first break of a previous 15s high. 37.06 would be the entry. Worst case stop down below this candle, 36.88. And from 37.06, you know, pretty quickly to almost 37.40 to get to 37.40. So, you know, nothing huge, but it also could have made money. And then ROYL. This is a thinner stock, but with the price of oil going nuts, ROYL can just go crazy. And this is what the chart looked like coming in today. We already had it on watch. Unfortunately, as I told you, I was building that early list, and so I wasn't watching it right off the bat, or I probably would have called ROYL over today's 5-minute high. Okay, that doesn't count because I didn't call it and I didn't even see it. I was busy building that list, but that would have been a nice entry right there. I happened to find another entry for everybody when it did this chopping around again. See how there's really no clean entry on 5s, but you do have a flag pattern. Again, I switched to 15s, and I told everybody over the microphone ROYL is giving a pretty clean 15s setup, meaning you got the stair steps on 15s, first break of a previous 15-minute candle's high. Would be the entry 566 if the next candle does it with a 558 stop. That's pretty darn good. And then boom, it gets going and holds the stop all afternoon. And when it started back up here, for those that weren't in it, I said, I typed into chat, hey, ROYL is getting sneaking up again is how I worded it. I mean, no sooner did I type that out than boom, ROYL straight to 646. But anyway, from the 15s entry, 566 to 646, that's a pretty darn good percentage gain there, and less than a dime risk. So ROYL, another big one today, and that's probably about it. So I'll get off the mic here and we'll talk to you guys next week. Have a good weekend.